The bigger than ever DTM Esports Championship is back. Back-to-back weeks as we were racing at Norrisring just 7 days ago, and we arrive here at the virtual Oschersleben. It's myself, Lewis McGlade. Ewan O'Leary joins me in the commentary booth today, and Ewan, you've been keeping your eyes closely here on this DTM Esports Championship. It's been fantastic so far as we race to our live final in obviously just over a month's time. And look, it's really exciting to see. We've got some big names at the front, some new names potentially for some people in the world of sim racing moving their way to the fore as well.
Yeah, we certainly have, and we've had three very different rounds, I would say, over the course of the first three, with different winners, and indeed the winners then not doing so well after they've won as well, which has been a little bit unusual for a championship. Nobody's properly gripped this, I don't think, yet. And as far as a championship lead is concerned, sometimes you might see 2 out of the first 3 being won by the same driver and somebody really taking charge, but that hasn't happened yet. And wonder whether tonight's going to be the night where somebody finally doubles up, or at least gets 2 sort of good results together, really, which has been a bit of a rarity so far.
Yeah, it's been tricky. I mean, even comparing it to the pre-show round, the pre-season event that we had at Austria at the Red Bull Ring, that was won by Turka Hakkinen, Alessandro Ottaviani, then Norris Lerner, and of course last time Tim Yarshall, previous champion of the DTM Esports Championship a couple of years ago. Focusing on some of those drivers that have done so well before in DTM Esports, Lucas Muller, not the season that we were expecting from the champion of DTM Esports last year.
No, absolutely, and I think it started really, didn't it, back at Zandvoort, where first of all he didn't qualify very well, then he got stuck in the midfield and got caught up in an incident, I can't remember who with, but through turn 10, through the hairpin, he went into a spin sort of towards the end of that race, and he's never really picked himself up from this, to be honest, and it's going to be a miracle if he repeats, to be honest. Some of the names who were challenging him, though, like Tim Yarshall and so on, who were the sort of outsiders for last season's championship, are there up towards the front, so it's not a complete loose slate of new names, but the reigning champion probably is not going to defend his crown as it stands.
If I remember correctly, it might have been Moritz Lerner who was the one who tapped into the rear end of Lucas Muller at turn 10 back at the opening round of the season. He obviously then went on to win the next round. We went to the Lausitz Ring. Very different style of circuit there. Very different style of circuit we went to racing just a week ago at the Norris Ring. Very different style of circuit to what we're racing here today at Oschersleben. Obviously, it's a circuit which typically works for your slower speed touring cars. We've raced it recently in the Next Gen Cup, of course, here on Race Room, and those being much smaller touring cars, effectively. Taking some GT3s around there. It is quite a tight and difficult track for our drivers today.
It is in GT3s, rather. I actually think it's a really nice circuit to drive, to be honest. I think it's quite underrated in as far as driving on your own, as far as putting a group of 30-odd out there at the same time and having a race. A little bit more difficult to overtake, especially when you're using the faster first chicane rather than the very awkward hairpin, which I know people don't like very much, but it did increase overtaking chances at least. That was the one saving grace. But yeah, it's a very flowing circuit, which means there are few chances. But the great thing about this format is that you have 2 pit stops over the course of the day, as we've explained in every round. A pit stop window for your first one, and then your second one being made at any point after that. That really opens things up. And to be honest, in the early rounds, I didn't think people were using it very well in terms of using those pit stops to actually get ahead of one another. I thought at the Norris Ring, there were some really sort of outlandish strategies. There were some really unusual ones, and that's what you want to see. That's what you've got to do, especially at circuits like this, to get ahead.
Yeah, where they're narrow, where they're tight, where track position does reign supreme, you've got to time those pit stops perfectly. And of course, just a week ago, like you said at the Norris Ring, it needed to be timed perfectly. Let's roll ourselves back just that 1 week and see exactly what happened at the Norris Ring. Here we go. So we are into the live coverage here. Thank you for bearing with us this afternoon, but it is 57 minutes left to go of racing. Tim Yarshall is your race leader. Turka Hakkinen behind. Alessandro Ottaviani is keeping close. Jonas Wanner had a little bit of a tap in the background, but Bennick has not quite got the speed of the quartet at the moment that lead. Here comes the battle for third position. Jonas Wanner to the inside, and he'll send the Alpha 1 by SX car up into third position. Alessandro Ottaviani down to fourth. Benneker looks to the inside and goes full send, trying to get it alongside the M4 at the opening turn. A big look to the outside from Jonas Wanner. He'll have the inside as they head their way towards this double 90-degree section where they go to the right and then back to the left. Wanner with the inside line trying to hold the podium, and he will do for now. But Max Benneker, he is there and he's knocking at the door.
Lerner, though, with that early stop, like I say, he is very much caught up in a little bit of traffic here. Crucially, though, will he get in front of Thomas Ribeiro towards the opening corner? He's going to give it a good go. Look to the inside of the Mercedes. Ribeiro going to try and fight it to the outside. A bit discouraged as Lerner muscles his way past.
There comes a look to the inside. Thomas Ribeiro making the move on Moritz Lerner. And by the time they complete the hairpin at the opening corner, it is Thomas Ribeiro ahead of Moritz Lerner. Benneker is looking for a second podium of the 2026 season. He's tried this one before, looking to the outside here. This time he's trying to leave it alongside. There is going to be a bit of a brush between the two of them. Jonas Wanner's going to go out into the barrier and slams the barrier on the exit of the chicane. They've dragged Nicholas Howland back into it for Team Nitro as well. It's going to be a trio following from what will be the final step on the podium. More slides, 3 wide into the final corner. 5 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. Max Benneker's going to steal it away, and now the up and under is going to go, at least at the moment, in the way of Jonas Wanner in the Alfa SX car. This is great fighting as we are on the 67th lap of racing here at the Norris Ring. It's Max Benneker holding the inside line. It's a big look to the outside coming in from Nicholas Hauben. He is going to steal away third position for now. I know it says fourth. We're still awaiting Martin Peterman to come into the pit lane. There's still Jonas Wanner's back into it as well. Benneker's on the outside, might get hung out to dry here. Could it be 3 wide to the final corner for the second time in this battle? Finally finding his way through comes Nicholas Hauben, but Jonas Wanner was there as well. Surely we're going to get some 3 wide across the start-finish straight. Look at this battling.
I love to see it. I mean, the Norris Ring, it's tight and it's technical, but goodness me, it is a breeding ground for some good racing. Jonas Wanner with Maximilian Benneker trying to use him as the battering ram now. It's roles reversed from a couple of laps ago. The black and yellow BMW of Wanner will establish control. Bumped wide, though, the Porsche sideways into the side of Maximilian Benneker, who will find his way through. Well held there.
And for Tim Yarshaw, who holds firm at the front, he's not going to have a pretty difficult run towards the checker flag. This is where the difficulty is going to come. The fight for third. Wanner, Benneker, Hauben, Ottaviani. Extremely tight between them. A look to the outside again. Comes in from Benneker. He's surely going to have a look into the final corner. Tim Yarsh off the final corner, and he's going to win here at the Norris Ring. A fantastic performance to become the third different winner of the 2026 season. Turka Hakkinen in second, and the drag race to the line will see Jonas Wanner just about able to beat Max Benneker, Nicholas Hauben and Alessandro Ottaviani. The quartet across the line in a frantic and fantastic fight for third place. So Tim Yarshall victorious again in the DTM ESPORTS Championship. I think he was winning 5 times last season. Obviously a different format there where we had 2 races a night. Now with just 1 race a night, finally got himself a victory. But Ewan, that means we've had in the main championship here, we've had 3 different winners from 3 races, including the pre-show round. We've had 4 from 4. I wonder if we're going to get 5 from 5 tonight.
Yeah, I guess the chances go down each time, don't they, of that continuing on. But you wouldn't bet against it totally. We're going to know a lot more about that after qualifying, it feels, because it's going to be another one of those races where qualifying up towards the front is very, very important. And, you know, if you were to be harsh on that race, you saw there from the Norris Ring, it was effectively Tim Yarshall getting pole and then going through to the end with the win. Obviously, it was a bit more complicated than that. The battle for third was exceptional behind, but as far as the lead was concerned, the conversation for the lead was very, very short. So I have a feeling that is going to be a similar feature here tonight as well, where the sort of narrowness of Oschersleben is going to mean it's difficult to overtake, and the pit strategy is where the difference is made again.
Yeah, I mean, look, for Max Benneker, I will say there was a ride to fourth position, just another good result from Benneker this round. He's one that definitely could find himself up in contention for a pole and maybe even a victory. The poles through the season so far have been pretty critical to a driver's win. You can see them here. Alessandro Ottaviani on pole back in Zandvoort, and then obviously went on to be victorious. Tim Yarshall did get the pole at Lausitzring, but was unable to be victorious that day. That one went to Moritz Lerner, and then the Norris Ring, of course, it was Yarshall on pole, and then ending himself up as the winner of that round as well. So I think you're right, Ewan. Maybe that pole position is going to be critical. You can see here the podium. Great to see Turka Hakkinen onto the podium as well for the NeedRacing.com team, especially after that victory in the pre-show round. Also over a month or two ago now.
Yeah, exactly, and finally picking up some form from that. Here are the standings coming in as a result. Thomas Ribeiro still the leader by 3 points in front of Jonas Vanna, then Maximilian Benneker, Tim Yarshall, Alessandro Ottaviani, top 5 covered by 11 points. What I was going to mention about Yarshall, by the way, is that he's got 2 podiums to his name as well, with 3rd place at the Lausitz Ring as well. So good consistency from him. Moritz Lerner with some consistent-ish races as well, but as only 8th in the standings. So it's interesting to see how the standings actually come out, because Ribeiro hasn't really been well, I didn't see much of him, to be honest, at Norris Ring, and yet there he is still.
Yeah. He's just consistent getting those points. If you're looking at those points thinking 2,900 and what? This is NASCAR. No, obviously the way the points work for DTM Esports, I said before, it is the biggest ever season of DTM Esports that we've had. It's not just our top split that are racing here. We're racing in splits below this. So some drivers that maybe are lower on the ranking system may be in server 1 for one round. Then depending on who shows up, they may be in server 2 for the next one, then come back up. Manuel Vera had that, and it's so that they also have the chance to be in the top 20, which of course is what they're all fighting for to get to our live final. Before we get there, though, obviously we're racing in just a week's time at Oschersleben. We had it a little bit earlier on in the season. There is a Beat the Pro challenge. Let's take a look.
Hey everyone, Calvin van Linden here, race driver for BMW Motorsport and Schubert Motorsport in DTM. I've just tried my hand at the new race room, and yeah, you guys can do the same. Head over to the leaderboard, try and beat my lap time, and the fastest 5 will be invited to Oschersleben, where we can have a meet and greet in the box, and looking forward to see you all there. So, see you soon.
Kelvin van der Linden, one of the superstars of DTM, will be a driver that you can beat if you head your way to Oschersleben in just a week's time to join the DTM round. There's plenty of things, obviously, in the paddock area, including the DTM eSports stage, where you can go and, again, try and beat Kelvin van der Linden. And also, I'm sure you'll get your hands on some goodies in the paddock. You'll get to see some fantastic racing at Oschersleben, which, of course, Ewan, is where we're racing today. Let's talk a little bit about the track. I've said before, it's quite narrow, it's quite technical, quite twisty, and very, very difficult. Those pit stops are going to be critical over the 60-minute race.
Yeah, they certainly are, as this graphic shows here. Turn 1 and 2, very difficult, but a half chance, as all of them really are here. And then for a couple of hairpins, really, before you get to the triple left-hander, as the name suggests, there's a half chance to dive down the inside at that long hairpin as well once you get there. But again, you've got to be very, very, very close to the driver in front of you to do that. And then in towards the shell curve as well, where there's a half chance. But that's quite a fast right-hander at the end of the racetrack there. The pit lane just shoots off to the left just before you reach that final right-hander of the hairpin there. And those will be where the critical pit stops are going to be made. The first of them at least 15 minutes into the race, or in that middle half an hour or whatever. And then the next pit stop anytime after that. So there's no time limit on that. And as we saw last week, the drivers have now started to experiment with going as long as possible, pretty much, right up to the very last lap. I think it was Martin Peterman who went right to the very last lap there at the Norris Ring, trying to do something a little bit different on strategy. And it may work, may not, but it's good to see them trying different things now, because they realise, they understand the necessity of that.
Easy for you to say. No, I think you're absolutely right. Like, it depends on the kind of circuit. If it's somewhere like the Red Bull Ring, which obviously was in our pre-show round, you could kind of afford to pit quite early because you knew that if you were in the points where you might have to overtake someone, theoretically you could do, everyone's running around the same pace, better slipstream, shouldn't be too bad. When you go to somewhere like Zandvoort, for example, in our opening round of the championship, you kind of had to leave those pits a little bit late. Same as the Norris Ring, and very similar to here, where I think you will have to leave. If you want to win, you have to leave those pit stops quite late. I was surprised, as I'm sure Zach was, I'm sure you might have been whilst writing your articles, that Max Benneker pitted quite early, a lot earlier than expected. And it didn't hamper him as much as I was personally expecting it to, because I thought he was going to get caught up in way too much backmarker traffic.
I think the thing about the Norris Ring was that you pretty much ended up exactly where you were before, just a lap down after your pit stop, which is not going to be the case here, and it's not going to be the case anywhere else. The thing about this format here really relies on the fact that the pit stops are really quite long, and so you don't actually normally end up in traffic that you're talking about there because of the long pit stops dragging you back into some clean air. I actually didn't mind that call from Benneker last week, to be honest, because I thought he's stuck in traffic anyway. It's worth a go. And I thought he probably got the most what he could out of that race last week, to be honest. I don't think he could have troubled the top two, really. But battling for that podium place, as he ended up doing there, was pretty much the best he could have hoped for, I felt, from last week's race anyway. So I didn't mind that call, to be honest, from him to do that. But it's a stark contrast, I thought, to the Zandvoort round, race one. I remember thinking about how wrong he got it, I thought, in terms of when he pitted. He only went on one lap further than, I think, was it Ribeiro and Vera, I think, who was with him at the front of that race. He pitted just one lap later than them, as if one lap of an overcut was going to get him ahead of them or something. In the end, and he did it twice, it got him exactly to where he was before. So I thought that last week was much smarter than what we saw earlier on in the week.
You'll be getting some criticism from the Mouse team for disregarding their strategy. Practice, by the way, has come to a close, and Keke Oliveira was the one who topped the practice session. As we head into qualifying, who's going to be on pole for the fourth round of the season? We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, Joshua's in form, isn't he? Not only with the win last time out, but also with the last two pole positions, as we saw on that graphic there. The only driver so far this season to have gotten a pole where he hasn't won from it. If that's a record that you want to give somebody, he did manage to convert a pole position last time out at least. But he's the one in form for me. He got pretty close last season, and he's right up there again this season, as we saw at with the standings there. Although it is very, very close across the board.
Say anything to Tim in his interview after Norris Ring, but understandably so. You're obviously never going to bring it up. I'm sure he knows it more than anyone else. If you remove penalty points from last season, I'm pretty sure he wins by a fairly comfortable margin, followed by Isaac Price, who's not joined us this season. Basically, your point's right. He is sometimes, quite often, the former man in the DTM ESPORTS Championship, and we've seen that in the years past. We've seen it in the season past. There's a reason he is the champion, as he disappears off behind the hairpin. What was it? Back on the start finish straight, I'm sure. Well, into the final corner comes Keke Oliveira after topping practice. It's great to see Keke Oliveira up there. Obviously, one of the most positive drivers in the world of sim racing. And the opening lap of this qualifying session sees him at the top, ahead of Tim Yarshall in that Audi R8.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, through practice seemed to be the fastest driver, so no surprise that he is challenging so keenly towards the front of the field, and he starts another lap, resetting himself straight away and starting another one. It's the faster version of this first chicane. Certainly better for driving, not better for overtaking though, which I'm a little bit sad about, but anyway, they'll have to find some other places to make moves. They'll have to find some more time in these laps here, because qualifying is going to be so important. Ottaviani now moves up to second place on that front row.
Ottaviani has had some serious speed this season, loving seeing it into the triple left-hander. Keke Oliveira bails from that lap and will reset. Remember, when the time hits zero, the session is over. They have the track to themselves. And they get as many goes at it as they possibly can, and that's why you see some very, very tight margins. Not quite as tight as what we were seeing maybe last round of the Norris Ring, where they had to deal with a whopping 4 corners. Around here, I would suspect the margins from top to bottom might be a little bit larger than what we had, but a few drivers to really keep an eye on into the opening sector. And again, from Keke Oliveira, I've always struggled to find a good rhythm in that first sector, because you've got to be so committed to the opening part of it, because you can carry so much speed into or through Hotel, and then into the ever-tightening right-hander of effectively the second corner.
Yeah, it is really difficult the first couple of turns, but it very much sets the tone for the lap, because there's multiple hairpins that look a bit like this one at turn 1 and 2 here. There's the turn 6 after the triple left-hander that sort of dives, then changing the other direction into turn 7, for example. There's obviously the hairpin of turn 3 as well, which is more of a standard one, but that's very much a theme for the lap here, switching one way, then back the other as you come through here. I actually think the faster layout here makes turn 2 a little bit easier, because you can sort of go for an early apex, smash the early apex, and then cut back in for a late one. When you're doing the turn 2 with the slow layout, it's such a tight hairpin. It's so long as well. It's like 270 degrees all the way around. It's a lot more difficult. So I actually think this faster layout, while also being more flowing and entertaining, is also a bit easier.
Well, the provisional pole was held by Tim Yarshall. Nicholas Albon was able to improve himself up in the second position before Alessandro Ottaviani has stolen that provisional pole away. Lucas Müller trying to at least recover something from this season, puts himself into third in the session as Cody Nikolakowski bails from his lap. There is the Porsche of Alessandro Ottaviani, Dur Esports by SX. Of course, he's got a bit of partnership up there effectively for the Dur camp. It will be a 1-2-3 for them. Tim Yarshall and Lucas Müller also a part of that camp, although those two representing the Falcon Sim Racing car. Goodness me, a bit of power put down there from Alessandro Ottaviani as Jonas Wanner now goes to third. The Dur cars are looking pretty strong this round, Ewan.
Yeah, and once again, really, it's them mobbing the front here. Lucas Muller's quite far towards the front as well, which we haven't seen too much of this season, though he's just been pushed down to 5th by Tobias Grunewald, who's in 4th. Muller only 1/10 off of the pole, despite the fact he's in 5th place, and there's less than half a second separating the top 18. So I agree with you that this is much more technical than the Norris Ring, and so you'd think there'd be bigger gaps, but really that hasn't transpired just yet.
1 minute and 40 seconds left to go. For a lot of drivers, it'll be starting their final laps of this session again. Once the checkered flag is out, the session is over. Lucas Müller will be on his last lap. He's gone through the SS section. He's got the final 2 corners left to go, and he'll use the entry of pit lane just to get that better apex into the final corner. Any improvement from the champion up towards the line for Falcon Sim Racing. Lucas Müller goes to 3rd. Good improvement for the Falcon Sim Racing driver. Now here comes Tim Yarshall.
Yeah, and can Muller even assist Yarshall in any way during this race? If they start 2nd and 3rd like this, then they might well end up doing just that. But let's see. He's got to find 100th of a second here as Yarshall over Ottaviani, who currently holds the pole position. Are we about to see these two go at it again? The two who've taken the 3 pole positions between them so far this season look like they're going to share the front row again here.
Tim Yarshall, big slide as he goes through the chicane. I'm not sure that'll be any improvement, and definitely bounce from it was 400th down in the opening sector. Back to Max Benneker, who's come through the opening sector about 700ths down on our provisional pole time at the moment by Alessandro Ottaviani. What does the middle sector hold? Again, losing it a little bit more time on my live timing. It is Benneker dropping. Kaiki Oliveira will be the next one to come round. Will there be any improvement from him after topping practice? There will not. Oliveira will end in 10th. And Max Benneker has one final corner left to go to see if there's going to be any improvement from the Mouse driver. Currently sits in 9th place. Is he going to be able to work his way forward? No, he is not. Alessandro Ottaviani then will be the one starting from pole position here at Oschersleben.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic lap from him, a 1:19.9, getting him that best time and getting in the pole position here for tonight. So it's he and Yarshall really who've shared the poles so far this season. Across the board, across the 4 rounds, but they're not the championship leader, of course. The championship leader, by the way, Thomas Ribeiro, down in 14th on my last look. Yeah, 14th. He stays at the end of that session as the championship leader, of course. So he's got some work to do from back there.
Obviously, for these drivers, they're really focused on being inside that top 20 to get to the live final, of which they have, after today, only one further round to qualify for that. It'll be 2 rounds at the live final in a few weeks' time, and very curious to see how that was going to unfold. Obviously, we're racing at the Nürburgring and at the Hockenheimring in rounds 6 and 7 of the DTM ESPORTS Championship. You can make whatever joke you want out of that one. I know you will. I can feel your hands are going, ooh, crazy, off he goes. No, he has no idea.
No,
6-7,
no,
that's fine.
no.
Obviously, Sachsenring before that, but here at Oschersleben, look, these are going to be some important points for these drivers to score.
Yeah, they are, and you know the front, as we've already seen in the standings, very, very close across the board. So it is probably a concern for Ribeiro that he's so far down. For example, the leader so far down the field. Although then again, his closest rival Beneke is not that much further ahead, only in 9th place himself. So a lot of the guys who are already towards the top are not actually that close towards the top of this qualifying session. It's really Ottaviani and Yarsho. And I said at the start of the stream that nobody has really gripped this championship lead yet, in as far as, yes, there's been lots of different race winners, but the other races they've had have not been very good ones for those race winners. That might well change here tonight for the likes of Ottaviani and Yarsho, who look like the big two at the front of the field.
Yeah, very much so. See if the champion can maybe throw his hat into the ring and steal a victory away for the Dur Esports camp. They've got quite a few drivers up there ready to take control then this evening, and if they can all kind of work together, they can definitely secure a victory between at least one of the 4 of them that are right the way up there. For those that are a bit further down, they might have to risk a little bit on strategy here this evening. And you pointed out quite rightly, at Norrisring, you'd come into the pit lane and come out basically where you came in, obviously just a lap down. Around here, we're not expecting the same. In that sense, though, there's a lot more room for potentially some clean air, so the undercuts might not be the worst strategy in the world around here.
Yeah, I think if you're stuck in traffic, you should be looking for an undercut pretty much immediately, to be honest, because if you're not going to get past it in the period leading up to the pit window, you're not going to be able to do it after that either. There's plenty of time in the first part of the race to figure out whether you're going to be able to pass the guy in front of you on circuit or not. So either get that done or get in the pit lane pretty quickly, I would say, and make your first pit stop early on. We might see some of the others up front reacting to that. We'll wait and see if there are guys who really run quite a long way in, because I think Yarshall in the lead ran past the halfway mark only just at the Norrisring last week. So we might well see some longer runs in as well, just depending on where you are. But yeah, there is a lot of room for clean air around here. It's gonna, if you're one of the sort of leaders-ish, you're gonna pit and then come out not miles in front of the race leader, but still in clean air on the lead lap.
Obviously, we've got a couple of minutes left to go of warm-up. The race is just on the horizon, and I think it would be hard-pressed to look past the top couple of rows as to maybe where your winner's going to come from. But I do think, as we'll see them driving around in the warm-up session, currently being topped by Moritz Lerner. Super relevant in the warm-up session. Everyone's doing their own thing, maybe practicing pit entries and such. Really important to get those right around here. For some that are maybe a little bit further down, do you know what? I wouldn't necessarily count out your Max Benekers and stuff, who've actually used strategy quite well this season, been a bit aggressive on it to move their way forward into a podium contention position.
Yeah, I'd say the pit stop's going to be so crucial here that you sort of have to use those to move up, and it's not about moving up to actually try and win the race, because that's going to be very difficult. It's about sort of moving up to a better position, really, and perhaps that would be a podium position in this race. Who knows? Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Goodness me. Anyway, yeah, that's sort of the aim, really. Just move up a little bit further in that mode, especially for the likes of Max Beneke, for example, who's tied third in the championship here with Yarshall. I mean, he probably does need to be ahead of Yarshall if he wants to stay ahead of him in the standings, but even so, just finishing ahead of Ribeiro by a few points, getting a bit close to the championship lead. Same for Jonas Vanner as well. Just get a little bit closer to that championship lead by a few points or so. It's they're all hanging around the right position-ish here at this stage in the season.
Saw Martin Peterman there driving around, expecting maybe to go very long in this race. Remember the pit stops; they have to make 2 of them. The first of which has to be done between 45 minutes to go and 15 minutes to go, and the second one can be any time after that, including in the final 15 minutes of the race, as long as it's not on the final lap of the race. Warm-up has just come to a close. Moritz Lerner did end it at the top again, super irrelevant. I think it was only like 3 times set in that warm-up session. the race is just on the horizon. 60 minutes of racing, this 1 hour format for the DTM Esports Championship, of course being run not just here in Server 1 but also in splits down the field for DTM Esports as they all try and score points and race our way towards our season finale. Ewan O'Leary, very quickly, a pick for the win? Any chances?
I'm going to go for Yarshall going back to back and denying Ottaviani a win from the pole. I don't really have any justification, to be honest, but the win's very unlikely, I would say, to come from anywhere below that front row, maybe second row, as you said, but lower than that, I think it's going to be almost impossible.
Well, you know me, I like stats and forms, and I also like trends to sometimes keep up. We've had a different winner for every round that we've raced this season, including the pre-season round. I think that might well continue, and I'm going to go for a return drive from our champion, Lucas Muller. He'll be starting from the second row. For Alessandro Ottaviani, though, he will be on pole, and he will be ready to try and lead the field away and lead down into that opening corner, which is going to get tricky. I suspect we're going to get some drama in the opening stages. They're about to start their formation lap. I mean, this is going to be fun.
It is, yeah, and I say that first chicane, we're about to see it here on this opening lap. Well, for the formation lap, sorry, but for the opening lap, we're going to see it. You know, very, very interesting. Look at the way that it's sort of. Almost the racing line almost narrows there. The first turn, the actual left-handed turn, you can actually fit quite a few cars wide. Really smashes in very narrow though in time for the right-hander itself. So I'm not actually sure which side the leader starts here, Oschersleben, but it does matter an awful lot as to which side of the grid you're actually on.
I'm going to assume left side.
That's not the side I'd pick, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, but it's the inside for turn 1.
Yeah, but it's the outside for turn 2.
yeah, which is fair. But then, I think around here it would be the inside for turn 1. That would be the legal line for it, at least with rules. But then sometimes it's not what you think it is. Like I say, for Ottaviani, for Yarshall, for Muller, for one of the front few rows, all effectively in association. Believe in each other, you know, there's going to be a little bit of control there. Tim Yarshall, Lucas Miller, Jonas Wanner will be working close together as they did throughout the previous season. Some drivers to really keep an eye on further back. Tobias Groenewold, 5th and 6th for Team Nitro. So I didn't even realise that's actually quite good qualifying for the Team Nitro squad. Yeah,
on what has otherwise been quite a quiet season, really. When you look at the front contenders, Hubin was sort of involved there or thereabouts on the fringes of the top 3 at times last week, but not so much. So it will be the right-hand side for Ottaviani. He will get the outside at turn 1, but the inside in time for turn 2.
And I'm sure he'll time this perfectly on the start. Final corner there, going to head their way through. Alessandro Ottaviani, Tim Yarshall, the front row. 60 minutes of racing ahead of us, and plenty of drivers to be questioned as to how far they can work their way forward. So, for the 4th time in DTM Esports in this new era, 2026, these longer races, we're about to get racing into the opening corner. And it is racing. Tim Yarshall almost looked like he jumped the start then. He's able to clear Alessandro Ottaviani easily into the opening turn. It'll be Yarshall from Ottaviani. That looked almost coordinated between the group. Wanner and Muller will be fighting over 3rd and 4th position. Meanwhile, a big look to the outside as Jonas Wanner is able to keep Tobias Groenewold at bay. But Tim Yarshall, Ewan O'Leary, is your race leader by a country mile.
That was very, very unusual, that start there. The leader looked like Tim Yarshall. The pole sitter looked like Tim Yarshall there. And he just jumped away from Ottaviani, almost as if deciding when to go himself, rather than waiting on the leader's call. And Yarshall leads this race in towards turn 1. So it didn't actually matter in the end which side the pole sitter was on. He was going to get smoked either way, because Yarshall, as he said at the time, almost looked like a jump start. He's so far in front.
On board with Manuel Vera, Max Benneker ahead, Moritz Lerner behind, a bit of mouths bred on the HGE Racing Esports sandwich. Kaiki Oliveira, despite topping practice, has dropped down into 12th. He's now got Philip Dryce and Bo Dixon behind. The pair of those will fight. You can see that a little bit in the mirror here. Manuel Vera better through the S's into the penultimate corner. Will try and get back to the inside, but clobbers that sausage curb before having Moritz Lerner firing his way down the inside. The Lausitz Ring winner is trying to fight his way through and muscle his way past. Can't do it there, can Lerner. I wonder if he might be a sitting duck for the BMW M4 that sits behind for BS competition.
Vera's too far back, but it could be quite costly, that failure to make the move there, because as soon as we get single filed out and settled in to the early stages of this race, it's going to be very, very difficult to overtake. We're already seeing that inside the top 5 here. Joschel leading ahead of Ottaviani, Muller, Vanner, and then Groenewold. Then a bit of a gap back to Huben, and things behind him not quite settled down just yet, but you can see what's going to happen to them very soon as well, as it's happened to the top 5. Already in a stage where it's going to be very hard to make these overtakes.
Yeah, it's the fast-flowing nature of this track. You could see just ahead there, Max Benneker and Turger Hakkinen both taking slightly wider lines there as they head their way through the chicane and out towards the S's section. There was just a little bit pushing away. I kind of wonder if Turger Hakkinen maybe felt he needed to go a little bit wider there for the NewRacing.com team, just to make sure that he wasn't tapped in the rear from the red and white of Max Benneker. 11th position we're looking at here, Moritz Lerner, Kai Oliveira in those distinctive BS competition Brazilian colours of Oliveira settling into this race. I wonder how disappointed he would have been after qualifying though, knowing that he topped the practice, knowing that he's got the pace, but it just didn't quite come together. He's got to get his head back into the game.
First round of times we saw him top the session as well. It was second and third and fourth attempts that just went wrong for him. He kept resetting again and again and again, and while he was doing that, there were drivers going faster than him in each and every time, and so he's ended up a long way away from where he should be. This though is where the sort of qualifying pace almost equalises. It feels like everybody's running at the same speed, because overtakes are made to be very, very difficult indeed. Manuel Vera is under a lot of pressure here, and this is a group really stemming from Nicholas Subin, as I said earlier, for 6th position, but pressure goes all the way down here. It goes almost to the back end of the top 20 here and outside of it here, so there's chances all the way down to make moves, but say as they settle in here, the chance for a move gets less and less with each lap.
Yeah, I mean, look, the one thing you can kind of do around here by keeping everyone under pressure, the car ahead of you really under pressure, like what we're seeing here from Moritz Lerner on the back of Manuel Vera, is you can force mistakes. You can really put them under a lot of pressure. And where Vera's had a couple of mistakes, Benneker's been able to pull out a bit of a margin that's giving Moritz Lerner the opportunity where maybe one more mistake and he can find his way back down to the inside. Of course, Vera went a little bit too tight through the penultimate corner a few laps ago, clobbered the sausage curve on the inside. Suddenly Lerner had the opportunity, couldn't quite get down the inside into the final turn. Certainly had a good look. We're riding on board with Max Benneker with Turger Hakkinen ahead. You can see the battle with Benneker's teammate Lerner trying to get his way past Vera directly behind. This is going to be a nature how this opening portion of the race unfolds, though, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. There'll be a lot of drivers already waiting for the pit stop window to open here and make their first pit stop of the day, and then the interest is going to be who makes it straight away and who carries on for a little bit longer where they are, because not everybody can come in and make an undercut here, especially in that second group back there. Even in this front group, to us to 5, the 4 behind Joschel can't all come in at once, otherwise there's not much benefit to that, and they'll start tripping over each other. So it's going to be in a holding pattern for now, but it's not going to last too long, because everybody will have been expecting this and they will be planning their move to come into the pit lane. The problem around with this pit lane though is that you can't, you've got to commit to it really, and you can't sort of back out if you see someone in front of you coming in, so that makes it hard to sort of change on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tricky pit entry that you say you have to be fully committed to. Thankfully, there it is on the left-hand side. It takes quite a wide run through the outside of the final corner. It's certainly not the worst pit lane we visit all season. I think it's actually fine. The only bit I have, but I can almost accept it. The exit, you are dropped out, not onto the racing line, but you're on the outside of a pretty fast and blind corner. And the amount of time where you have a little bit of side-by-side contact is definitely something to keep an eye on here, because people, when they rejoin, they're almost in each other's blind spots.
I mean, we saw it there with turn 2. They do use a little bit of that pit exit road in the line that they're using, so it is a little bit on the racing line. It's not terrible, as you say, they're on the outside, but they are a little bit on there. But if this is not the worst one, then which one is? I don't know which.
The worst pit entries?
Yeah.
I've got a list.
On this calendar.
On this calendar, well, I mean, technically we've had Red Bull Ring. I know it's not been an official round, but Red Bull Ring.
Counting that.
Red Bull Ring's pretty bad. I'm quite particular on pit entries and exits. The worst one on planet Earth is a slam dunk and a great victory for Brands Hatch in West Kingsdown in Kent. Worst of both.
Oh, worst combined exit and entry.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely awful. Love the track, but the pit lane is diabolical. Thankfully, we don't come here in DTM ESPORTS.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I say DTM ESPORTS. When was the last time DTM real life was there? Was it 2019? Was it? I mentioned that. Did that happen? I think so.
It was the first time I didn't go right. It was 2005. I visited there with my brother. I spent most of the day. We were in Five Fine. But 2005 was the first time I ever went to a local thing as a kid, and I didn't care. That's fine. Now I do very much so.
It was 2019. Just googled it last time. So there you go. It feels like it was longer ago than that. Anyway. This front five are still as they are. So saw a little bit side by side in the background, by the way, of the group for 6th position a little bit earlier on. I don't think it was too consequential between some of the drivers, but it was around the kind of place where Thomas Ribeiro is at the moment. He's actually lost a place since where he qualified, so it's not great for the championship leader, really. And when you're looking to sort of conserve your sort of standing at the front of the standings heading into the live final, if you're going to be there, then it's not the race that he would have been looking for. But then again, as I say, nobody's really had the season that they've been looking for yet. Anyway.
Nikita Vishnevsky, weirdly enough, out of the race for the Porsche that he's behind the wheel of, and interesting to have a retirement that early. For Ribeiro, he's the highest placed of the Mercedes, quite a lot ahead of him is BMW and Porsche with the low Audi R8 ahead of him, being of course Tim Yarshall at the front of the field, way ahead of the other Audi R8 in Roche, who sits down in 17th position. I don't know that's too much, but it's always one of the things to keep an eye on. And as we approach the pit window opening in about 4 minutes' time, you'd have to wonder that a few of those drivers that are outside the top 10, Tomas Ribeiros and such, that are maybe way out of position in the negative, that an early pit stop might well be on the cards. And I think from this group here, Ewan, the pit stop will be, for one, communicated surely, because we have Yarshall, Ottaviani, Muller and Vanna, and they're all a part of the same stable. So they can all control things from their current positions to maybe maybe not trip over each other too much.
Yeah, I get that. I would slightly question there being too much communication between them, as in, if there were so much, they could ensure that nobody overtakes anybody else, and I can't imagine that is something that all 5 of them are going to be happy with. I might be wrong, but you know, they could, if they wanted to, really coordinate this so they come out exactly as they are now. But I can't imagine that is going to happen. It is probably going to be more interesting though behind here, where we are starting to see some fracturing. Manuel Vera can no longer stay with the pace of those in front. Max Benneker with now nobody behind him, and put his full attention on to passing Turka Hakkinen now if he wants to. Max Lerner can put his full attention on, or most of his attention on trying to join him. Oliveira is right there as well. This is, though, as I say, the sort of area where there's loads of different teams back here, and there's loads of people who are stuck. I mean, Kike Oliveira, you highlighted pretty much straight away, is one of those. And I mean, look at this. He's trying his best right now, but it is just very difficult to actually make the pass on the circuit. So, a couple of minutes' time, he might well be in pit lane.
Well, you say, yeah, that Vera dropped off the back of Benneker, and so Lerner had a fresh chance to go through. The only problem with him is he's got Kike Oliveira behind, and they've got Philip Drace as well, waiting in the wings for his potential move. Bo Dixon's not a million miles off either, and the championship leader, Tomas Ribeiro, is behind that. So where some people pull away from the trains and others get clogged up in it, and Vera's been able to pull out a slight margin over Lerner behind, and he'll refocus himself on the second ahead to Max Benneker, who is unable to find his way past the Finnish driver of Turka Hakkinen. Back on board with Jonas Wanner, you can see the top 3 ahead, and the differing lines through the opening complex of corners as they head their way through to at Hotel. And that mirror being very much focused on as Tobias Gronewold is there for Team Nitro, incredibly close. Look at it, the top 4 being separated by 1 second, the top 5 effectively by 1.2, which Very rare in GT3 racing.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, it's quite difficult in real life to follow this closely, to be honest, at Oschersleben. That's normally the problem around here. Even with the slow hairpin, well, it's not hairpin, is it? But the slow first corner layout, even then it's very difficult to actually make an overtake stay this close, and on GT3 races where it can get very difficult. And this is what, Lewis, drives people to say GT3 should have DRS. Just saying.
Oh, you did listen to that that last time out. Look, it wasn't me that said it.
You told me about it anyway. Yeah.
Did I really? No, I try and remove as many conversations with you out of memory as possible. Did you know that England got beat by Argentina? Anyway, 45 minutes and 40 seconds left to go. The pit stops are on the horizon, and a few have come in earlier than I thought they possibly could, but obviously they know the rules better than we do, and they have ventured their way into pit lane. It's not just one or two of them, and it's quite a lot.
It is. As expected, there was going to be quite a few pit stops early, but the amount has surprised me a little bit, I must say. Try and get an actual number when everybody's come through here, and I can count them properly. Everyone's moving around like they're on a trampoline at the moment, but it's a lot of pit stops at this stage, and as I say, a bit earlier than I thought possible as well.
Yeah, I think it's 16th down into the pit lane, so it's 12 cars. I mean, you have enough fingers to count those on, and Roche, Muller, Drives, etc. They are all in the pit lane. Jonas Vanna's now working his way to the exit of pit lane and will be the leader of those. Tim Yarsha remains the leader on the circuit, and you can see how tight it is between Vanna and Muller. Tobias Grolovold also at the pit lane. Very important for Max Benneker to have some clean air here, although I think he might be still be behind Turka Hakkinen.
He is. And this is what I meant about the commitment that you have to make on the way into pit lane here. He wouldn't have known, obviously, that Hakkinen was going to come in as well, and if he hadn't have known that, he would have carried on. Yarshall and Ottavani going to come in to cover them up, by the way. I'm just rereading the rules again. The pit window is between minute 15 and minute 45 of the race. They came in before that, but does that mean when they go out, it has to be after 15 minutes?
I was going to say, I'm going to assume the mandatory requirement it'll be as long as they're leaving the pit lane after that time. Which I don't agree with, actually.
I know.
I know it's on the tip of your tongue. Like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. That is literally what I was about to say, actually. Yeah. It's not that I don't like that particularly, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It was not possible, was it, that 15 drivers would make the same error like that? So I knew that it wouldn't be possible. I was just wondering whether the actual opening, I'd forgotten, and the opening was on 10, and everybody just decided that lap to come in, which would have been even more strange. But no, it is 15, and it is when they exit, as Yarshaw is now doing.
Tim Yarshaw is, as I say, on the exit pit lane. Where is he going to come out compared to the drivers that he was around? Is it comfortably clear, or is it behind? Oh, almost slotting right into the middle, side by side for what will effectively second place. They return into their quartet, and it's Alessandro Ottaviani who's lost out to Jonas Vanna and all that. So Ottaviani down to third. Vanna will be up into second position, and of course will return to the race lead once the drivers ahead have ventured their way into pit lane. But I'm not going to lie to you, and if I am one of those drivers up ahead, I'm not feeling a rush to come into pit lane. I might enjoy sitting towards the front for a bit, although I think Spiegel has potentially himself. Might have been Matteo Leckie, but it's definitely
Spiegel is dropping down the field, so I guess it is him. So that will lead to 7 to come. Yeah, I mean, this is the strange thing I find about this season so far, really, is that I would agree in this scenario, I'd say Huben, Filippo and Lerner, well, all of them, to be honest, now they're stretched out, maybe with the exception of Peterman, who's behind Hassa at the moment. I'd say go on for pretty much as long as you can here in the clean air, because they're not going to be in clean air if they come into pit lane. They're going to have to try and get past somebody again, so I would stay out for as long as possible. But this is where the strangeness has come in, because for example, Benneker was in this situation at Zandvoort and decided to come in very, very quickly, and it's happened in other races as well, but pretty much all the others other than the Norris Ring last week, and they just haven't been carrying on for very long to try and make an overcut work. So let's see how long they actually give this, because so far they haven't been giving it very long so far.
Yep, indeed, in a rush to find their way onto pit lane, but the awkward bit from that, at least I know you'll be in the same camp as me, is that this because you've all had the opportunity to basically do what you want strategy within the confines of the pit window and the mandatory requirements that apparently are 50-50. They've all done the same thing. So what's the point? At least try and do something. Imagine Mikovic has now worked his way down onto pit lane. Yeah, try and gamble. Just give it a go. Have a little gamble and see what you might get on a nice Saturday evening here in DTM ESPORTS. Just do something different.
Exactly, and first of all, there's no point in having the choice if you're not going to use it. You might as well be told what lap to come in if they're all going to be like that. But I say this all the time, as you know, and the drivers always come back to me and say, "Well, it's slower on paper." I'm like, "Well, I know, but so is being stuck behind somebody." Yeah. It's not it's not an ideal strategy versus a not ideal one. It's two unideal strategies against one another. So you might as well try something different. And strange things can happen while you're not there. For example, when the others are in a group. I mean, Hubin's on his own at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen to these five while he's out front there? And they might all crash into each other, and he can come through the middle and win the race. Who knows? You just don't know. As unlikely as that scenario is. So you have to just try something different. So there's no point in having the choice if you're not going to use it.
Sure. Filippo will be the next one into pit lane. You're absolutely right. If
he's not listening,
huh?
He's not listening to us, clearly.
No. Look, they're going to do their own thing. It's fine. Whatever. As Moritz Lerner will at least listen to us and try and do something different as he stays out on the racetrack. The thing is, the way obviously it's fine because he has actually done something different in the sense of he's gone out for another few laps has been compared to some of the others. Fair enough. But the way that I was always told is that if you pit on the same lap as the person that you're directly behind, you will end up finishing the race almost certainly directly behind them, right? Yes, of course, overtakes exist, and you can go and do it, fair enough. But obviously an overtake, if you can do an overtake on strategy, it's effectively a free overtake. And so by sitting behind, look, it is what it is. The thing is, they all run the same pace anyway, doesn't it? So I guess it doesn't really matter to them whether they're pitting now, later, earlier, whatever. They're all running basically the same pace regardless, so you just end up going through the pit lane and then coming out pretty much exactly where you were anyway.
But, that's not entirely been the case so far in this front group. I mean, Vanna's ahead of Ottaviani now. That wasn't the case before. This is side-by-side between Vera and Filippo. These two weren't side-by-side before, of course. Lerner's trying to... And again, this is the advantage of the undercut. Vera's now fighting with Filippo. The fact that they are fighting probably means that Lerner's now going to be right behind his teammate Beneke and into, whatever place that will end up being when everybody comes into pit lane here, probably about 10th, 11th. When the others come into pit lane up ahead there. So again, there's an advantage for the overcut. I know that they're all running on very similar speed, but Vanna was able to jump Ottaviani in a slight undercut. I know they weren't able to undercut by any further because that was when the pit window opens, but not stopping any of these five from going in right now. The pit window's open for the final stop. You can make that when you like when you've made your first one.
Yep, exactly. Any point between now and the end of the race, these drivers can make their second and final stop of the evening. We're on board with Tim Yarshaw, our net race leader. 4 drivers ahead yet to come into pit lane. Obviously Sebastian Ray, Martin Peterman, Florian Haase and Moritz Lerner. God, if you're a German and a fan of very, very national German sim racing, that tower does look pretty good. 6 of them, one for the first 2 6.
I noticed this at the Lausitz ring, by the way, which the Germans were doing very well. I felt that was maybe down to a bit of home field advantage because the Lausitz ring's a bit of a strange place and a layout, and the Germans obviously will have driven there a little bit more than the others because who would drive at the Lausitz ring unless you were told to?
I mean, I've got a podium at the Lausitz ring.
How many were in the race?
There was like 30 people in the race. I think that might have been, Kevin Siggy was one of them.
Well done.
Thank you.
Was he one of the 2 ahead of you?
But no, actually, Dan Kerr was the only one ahead. It was a 1-2 for my team. So take that one to the bank, Ewan O'Leary. Moritz Lerner is into the pit lane, leaving just 3 cars out on the circuit. Florian Haase, Martin Peterman and Sebastian Ray. Where is Lerner going to come out compared to his teammate? That's effectively the battle that he was. He was behind Max Benneker, who's actually just set the fastest lap of the race. He tries to chase down Turka Hakkinen. Here's Moritz Lerner rolling towards the end of pit lane. Quite a late stop for him, and he might jump a couple of spots here as he heads out of the lane. Behind Beneker he goes. Will he remain there?
He's behind Vera as well. He's exactly where he was before. That's not doing much for my call for people to do something a little bit different, because he has done, and he's not actually received any benefit or negative from that at all.
Totally, they all run basically the same pace. Again, they're all very good at this. It's a great joke, it's fine. They all run. They practice so much they all basically run the same speed, and so actually making a difference in track is tough. As much as we'll sit here on the comp box and say that they should do this, that, and the other. I get the feeling if they just run 2 pit stops at some point, they'll probably end up where they were going to end up anyway. And this is why we need to increase tyre wear tenfold. Maybe not tenfold, but a little bit.
Wouldn't that make people split the race into thirds because the tyre wear's so high?
Yeah, it means it undercuts.
Well, true, but yeah, true, I suppose. Yeah. Not a bad idea. But I get you thinking of something to try and mix it up, because you're right, they are on such a similar speed that it makes it. And this is the point of GT3 racing as well. There's advantages and disadvantages of all formats of racing, and GT3's advantage is that you can get so many varieties of shapes and sizes of sports cars to run at the same pace, but the disadvantage is also that you can get so many sports cars to run at the same pace as well. And it means a difficult circuit for overtaking like Oschersleben. You get races like this where it is hard to make overtakes. Having said that, not much happened for the first 50 minutes of the Norris ring, and then the last 10 minutes were excellent. So I'd hold on for the next 25 minutes.
Indeed, into the triple left as we see it through Moritz Lerner's eyes as he heads his way back to the apex. Bit of a grass clipping there for his teammate Max Beneker, a couple of spots ahead. Into the chicane they go. Peterman has worked his way into pit lane, so not leaving it as late as he did at the Norris ring. Florian Haase also is into the pit lane, I believe, and so Sebastian Ray will be the only one remaining out on the circuit. It might actually be Florian Haase coming into pit lane rather than Mike. Maybe he's leaving as late as
both. They're both in. Yeah. Sebastian Ray, the only one who's carrying on at this point. Oh, as Lerner does go for it here. He's not spent too long behind Manuel Vera this time, and this is again the element of surprise where you've got to spring it on them early, trying to get alongside. He can't stay alongside though quite. He needed to stay there, even if it was a slight overlap down towards turn number 1. Is he going to give it another go now? He's getting desperate. And he just backs out of it. He is pushing now, and he's got to try and strike early, because the more comfortable Vera gets with Lerner right behind him like this, the less likely the overtake is going to come.
Second time in 27 minutes that Moritz Lerner's tried that one through the final corner, and both times ended up on him sitting behind the Porsche and remaining behind the Porsche. Enzo Filippo is also closing his way in. Kaiki Oliveira is the one who's lost out a little bit through that pit lane sequence. Obviously he was behind Lerner, was trying to look down the inside of that very opportunity. A few laps go into the back of the Porsche goes Moritz Lerner, and I get the feeling that Porsche there is struggling a little bit, whether it is whether it is tyres, whether it is just focus and concentration. That Porsche is under a lot of pressure, and Moritz Lerner, you feel, will be getting through at some point in the near future.
Yeah, I think Vera's qualified over his head, to be honest. I think he's had an excellent qualifying, and I don't think he has the race pace to back it up, really, based on what we've seen so far. He's got Lerner behind him for now, but very soon, Oliveira was in that group with him earlier. Filippo here this time as well, though. Oliveira's going to, he's seen this coming, and he's going to go straight into the pit lane. Also, somebody ahead of them came in there. That was Turkka Hakkinen, who's kicked off the final round of pit stops already.
Yeah, going in early and trying to perform a bit of an undercut here, as it remains extremely close in the fight for 9th position. It will be 9th by the end of the race anyway, if all things play out, because as much as Turkka Hakkinen's coming to the pit lane to do his second pit stop, Sebastian Ray at the front of the field has yet to do his very first. 32 minutes left to go here in round 4 of the DTM ESPORTS Championship, and from second on back, one pit stop, one of the mandatory pit stops has been completed. That will unleash the likes of Max Beneker a little bit. Of course, has the fastest lap of this race. Wonder if he can do that again. Maybe he'll be able to jump Turkka Hakkinen. If not, Turkka Hakkinen might be clean air, be able to jump up into this group. Tim Yarshall, the leader of those that stopped, from Jonas Vanner, Alessandro Ottaviani, Lucas Miller, and Tobias Groenewald, the top 5 of those yet to stop. Well, those yet to stop for the second time, but have stopped once, that's what I meant.
Yes. This is not confusing at all. We've got no stops, 1 stop, 2 stops been made all at the same time. Into the pit lane, somebody there. Is that Muller in? Or who's it? Oh no, Rear's in, sorry. And there is a bit of movement going on around where Muller is. It's hard to, because the pit lane entry is so... there he is, he's finally coming now. We don't get to actually see whether he's come in or not before he actually hits the speed limit, which is a long way down. So Jarschel and Vanna are going to be 1 and 2 here. Ottaviani then has a bit of a gap behind him where Muller was, but how soon are these guys going to cover him off here? Are they all going to be in next time round, I wonder, to try and cover off Lucas Muller?
Well, obviously Muller was jumped in the last round of pit stops by Jonas. It's Alessandro Ottaviani rather than was jumped, wasn't it? And you kind of get the feeling that maybe Ottaviani might well get jumped. Can he get jumped off the podium? He did such a good job in qualifying, having grabbed pole position. Obviously, the start was a little conspicuous by Tim Jarschel, but clearly he knows the rules better than we do. But he was able to jump into the race lead much earlier.
Not only us, he knows the rules better than Alessandro Ottaviani, it looks like as well.
Clearly.
Because he just went when nobody else did, and he's got away with it. So that's sort of how he's leading at the moment. But who's going to respond here this time round in the pit lane? Vanna's in, and so is Ottaviani.
Yeah, a pair of them aggressively firing their way into pit lane. That's why the pit entry is not super bad around here, in the sense of, yes, it's not great, but at least it's on a straight and you don't have to do something different to the others around you. That is the thing that I hate about some pit entries, where what you're doing on the racing circuit is different to what's, what someone's trying to head to the pit lane is. Anyone will know that from racing somewhere like Sepang or Circuit Gilles Villeneuve or Zolder, perhaps.
Is your dream pit entry and exit Fuji then?
Oh, it's a bit boring, isn't it? But yes.
Oh, come on. There's no pleasing you, is there?
No, it's not.
If it's correct, it's too boring. If it's incorrect, it's bloody dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, look, Fuji is a bit boring. But yeah, no, Fuji's perfect. It's boring. Fuji's got the same pit entry as Azerbaijan, just the opposite way round.
Sorry, Häkkönen's ahead of Muller after that undercut, by the way. So Muller must have had either a bad pit entry, a bad outlap. Something has gone very wrong for Lucas Muller, because it's not like Häkkönen's had a great outlap. He's nowhere near Vanna and Ottaviani.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Turkka Häkkinen up to 16th place as into the pit lane comes Tim Jarschel and Tobias Groenewald from the front of the field. Nicholas Albon will become your race leader as we pass over into the second half of this race. Moritz Lerner up to second position, Enzo Filippo, and we'll try and keep you appraised as to who is where when it comes to the pit stops. But that is difficult for Lucas Muller to swallow, because you can see he's the one that's definitely lost time, because Jonas Vanna and Alessandro Ottaviani are a fair way ahead.
We'll never know whether that undercut would have actually worked for Muller there, because I don't know whether it was the stop itself or the outlap or what went on there, but something's gone badly wrong, and he's not going to be a contender here at all for this race anymore. Where is Jarschel going to be though, and Groenewald, the two other contenders really from that top 5. Groenewald pretty close to Jarschel. I think Vanna's going to be in the lead here.
Jonas Vanna into the opening complex of corners and into the potential race lead as Tim Jarschel has dropped down into what will be third place, and a big kick of oversteer from Jonas Vanna. It'll be Vanna from Ottaviani, from Jarschel, from Groenewald, Häkkinen and Muller post pit stops. Once we'll see where Albon and Lerner and Filippo will be. But yeah, it's interesting there that there's been such a large drop in the change.
Massively so. I mean, Vanna and Ottaviani are a long way in front of Jarschel. Was that 1 or 2 laps they spent out there? Might have been 2, but yeah, that's a big gap nevertheless to have here. And well, it's hard to see Jonas Vanna losing this from this situation, by the way. And since he's second place in the championship going into today, only behind Thomas Ribeiro, he's still not having the greatest day. He's down in 23rd now. This is looking very good for Jonas Vanna, and not so good anymore for Tim Jarschel, who's only just in front of Groenewald.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, your pick for the race. I mean, my pick's not exactly doing great. The commentator's curse doesn't exist, but things aren't going well for those drivers that we have selected to do well this evening. And with 26 minutes and 20 seconds left to go, Timmy Arshall, effectively the former man of the DTM Esports Championship, has a bit of work on his plate to find his way back to the top step of the podium for the second consecutive race. And if things finish as they're currently running, we will indeed have our 4 consecutive winners in the 4 official rounds we've had for the DTM Esports Championship in 2026. 5 if you include the pre-show round. So, I mean, that's again shows the competitive equality that we have in DTM Esports, for sure.
Yeah, we've seen a show of that here tonight again as well, because of the similarity in the speed that we've seen from everybody again here tonight. It's been remarkably close, and it's at times led to us sort of thinking, well, this is never going to change. The speeds are so similar, the field is never going to change, but that's not entirely true. We have seen Vanna and Ottaviani use some pit strategy to get in front. Now, will they actually fight for the race win, or is Ottaviani just going to follow Vanna home? I think that's the only hope for a leading fight that there is here, these two at the moment.
I mean, look, as much as we talk of team strategy and Jonas Wanner's gone for a spin! Jonas Wanner! It's fine. Whew, okay, I'm going to have a deep breath, and we're not going to panic about any of that. We'll rewind 5 seconds, just pretend I didn't shout about anything. Well, it really caught me by surprise. Bit of lag there. No, what I was going to say is that as much as they're all from the same stable, and yeah, that's all well and good, it's about the top 20 of the Drivers' Championship. It's about the Drivers' Championship. No teams, no nothing. As much as you've got stable mates, you're not fighting for a team's championship or a stable championship. You're fighting for the Drivers' Championship. If I'm Alessandro Ottaviani, I'm focused on scoring points regardless as to whether it is my teammate ahead. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to fight them nicely and fairly and all this, that and the other, but my goal is to try and close up and get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was a weird moment, wasn't it, for Vanna? I mean, especially halfway through a discussion about how good these drivers are, and they don't make mistakes and whatever. And Vanna would have made a solo spin into the final corner. Thankfully, that didn't. You would have had a hard time arguing that after after that moment there. But anyway, you just got away with it. It's probably likely, I would say, because of all that where you just mentioned there about teammates and stuff, it's probably likely to stay as it is, I think, between Vanna and Ottaviani now. They're not even that close either, really. You've got to be really close to make a move around here, and he's not that close. The non-teammates, obviously down here, may well give us some more entertainment. Joshua, all of a sudden, now he's not in the lead, looks all at sea, really, and Gronewold's right behind him. Turka Hakkinen not that far behind, and for all of the single file that there is around here, there is also, when there is side-by-side, so the group scatters really, and then you're very likely to see moves. And also, we saw a bit of that at the Norris Ring last week, so just watch out for the first move to be made here, because after that, it's really going to turn into a different group entirely.
Yeah, Timmy Arshall, looking like France in a World Cup semi-final, convincing for an awful lot of this race, and then suddenly we get to the end of it, and looking like coming a bit undone and completely unconvincing potentially here for Timmy Arshall. Maybe he's playing a long game and looking after the tyres for the final bit, I don't know, but he is regardless feeling a bit of pressure from Tobias Gronewold. 2.1 seconds up to the Giro ahead. I mean, a podium, this will end up being at least at this pace, because it will be a 1-2 for those ahead. By the way, you were saying that Ottaviani wasn't close enough to Vanna. Go back to that one. 2/10 now separates the pair of them, and those two are very close at the front. Timmy Arshall would be in third position, but Gronewold, Hakkinen and Muller are all waiting in the wings for a potential mistake. And Max Benneker's not that far behind, just over 20 minutes left to go in this race.
Yeah, Ottaviani really has close in the last couple of moments, and say for that, for what will be the race lead, but so far nothing doing. So this is going to feel a little bit strange for a while because of the 6 who have not stopped yet. So far, none of them are getting close to actually needing to be passed by Vanna for an actual position. which is always a little bit of a concern for the leaders when some of the backmarkers stay out for a bit longer in their second stint of the day, especially Sebastian Rim, Mark Pittman are not that far ahead though of Vanna. And if they carry on right to the end of the next 21 minutes or so, as far as they can go, then maybe they'll be in the way at some point. But the leaders obviously be hoping not, hoping this can stay uninterrupted for the race lead for those two, and for these guys here for third position. It's an ever-growing group, this, with Yarshall at the front of it. Just looks like a completely different driver now that he's not in the lead anymore.
And I think the group will grow post pit stop, because I can imagine, well, obviously Nicholas Halvin, he was very close to his teammate who sits behind Tim Yarshall here in Tobias Groenewold, and you wonder, maybe, look, Halvin could be jumping onto the podium. We'll wait and see on that one, but if Tim Yarshall's pace is wiltering here a little bit, and he is dropping this group back a touch, then there is the opportunity for Porsche that currently leads this race to maybe skip a couple of cars. And Moritz Lerner himself won't exactly be a million miles off the back of this train and could well close his way in. So a lot to deal and a lot to discuss in this final third of the race, and a clear picture is yet to form ahead of us as the consistency is they throw their way through the chicane again. We'll put to the test as we run us up the honest. The car ahead really turns way through the span. They're highly committed between the pair. Maybe a little bit too committed there from Ottaviani, who drifted out a little bit wide there going through the chicane, through the Essie run.
It's kind of both, isn't it? Turn 12 there. Second part of that chicane, S's bit towards the end of the lap. Just went a little bit wide though, and that's created the gap of more than half a second now between those two. Over 6 tenths indeed. I'll say, I think Vanna's got this in hand, but every time I say that, Ottaviani gets a lot closer again for what will be the race lead. So who knows? And again, this surely would be the championship lead if Vanna were to be able to go on to win this race. Pero still down in 19th position, long way down as Nicholas Huber now just come in. This is a bit of a key moment for this race now.
Where is Huber going to come out? Because again, before the pit stops, was quite close to his teammate Tobias Groenewold, also with the pit lane Moritz Lerner behind, and Enzo Filippo, the trio into the pit lane who were running first, second, and third. And Huber wasn't a million miles away from this battle here. Will he rejoin it? Will he be ahead of it? If he's ahead of it, he's got a chance for the race victory. I think he'll probably slot out in and around Turkka Häkkinen. As much as I feel that Tim Yarshall's pace has been waning a little bit, I don't think it's been waning by that much.
It's well saying, but we might be about to be proven wrong here because it's just impossible really to be able to tell when they're running so far away from one another here. I think it's out of the question that Huber can be in this conversation for the top three, but let's see, there's his Porsche on the right hand side. It's actually not that far away from the lead entirely, but Vanna is going to be able to get ahead of him there at least to the inside, and so is Ottaviani because you have to go around so far there on the right hander. But here he is, Hoban. He is indeed in third place. The speed of Yarshall has gone out of him completely, and it's given Nicholas Huban a podium.
Yeah, that's a superb strategic move from Team Nitro, and he has slotted out in that gap that we thought maybe he would. They've played their cards perfectly there as he's jumped a whole host of drivers, his teammate and Tim Yarshall ahead, and now runs in what will become third position once Florian Arce, Martin Peterman and Sebastian Ray all enter the pit lane. The top three are yet to stop for their second time. The rest of the field have completed their mandatory requirements with 17.5 minutes left to go. You suspect that Florian Arce, Martin Peterman and Sebastian Ray will be into the pit lane relatively soon. Not crazy soon, but relatively soon. This is back to Moritz Lerner, who has been jumped by Kaiki Oliveira, so it's the exact opposite thing for Moritz Lerner as it was for his countryman Nicholas Albert.
Must be infuriating for Lerner, by the way, because he keeps going on these slightly longer stints, doing as we were suggesting, just do something a little bit different to try and make a difference here. Well, what's ended up happening, he's come out right behind Manuel Vera both times, which is exactly where he was before, and this time he's got the added bonus of also being behind Kaiki Oliveira, so he'll be infuriated by how this race has gone so far, I'd imagine, and he's just going to slip a little bit further away in this championship. Well, it's been a very inconsistent season for Moritz Lerner, really. Obviously a victory at the Lausitz Ring, but other than that, no top fives. think it was at the back end of the top 10 last week, from what I remember, and he's going to be outside the top 10 for the first time this season. This week, which is going to do a little bit of damage to his championship standing. He was in 8th at the start of the day. Could drop further than that. We'll see after this race.
Well, I mean, it's always good to be in a race where some drivers, like Nicholas Albon, prove our strategy ideas correct, and then some drivers doing the exact same strategy in a sense, with Morris Lerner, prove that we're completely wrong and we don't know what we're talking about. So clearly, take everything we say with a pinch of salt, right?
It's almost like the drivers themselves made the biggest difference.
No, really? Goodness me, I have no idea what I'm doing. Why I don't win anything these days.
See, I make a very big difference when I'm behind the wheel, but it's not always in a great way.
I think I make an even bigger difference, but that's more down to my sheer mass. Into the pit lane, Florian Haase has come. He's dropping his way down the order. You can see they're on the right-hand side of the screen. So just Martin Peatman and Sebastian Ray, yes, coming to the pit lane. Jonas Wanner has strategized his way to the front and has built the gap a little bit over Alessandro Ottaviani. About a second separates what will become first to second, and then a second back from that, and a second back from that. The groupings splintering a touch. Meanwhile, Tim Yarshall doesn't have any splintering behind him. Just a lot of pressure to deal with from Grolivold, Hakkinen, Muller, and Beneke, pretty much all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, indeed. It's looking more and more comfortable now for, I think, the new championship leader, Jonas Wanner, as it stands at the moment. Had a fairly consistent season so far, the way it's been going. Top 10s all round, I think. But this would be his first win and first podium, I believe. Or did he get that third place at the Norris Ring in the end? I can't remember. It was so
He did, yes.
Bizarre. He did get it. Okay, fine. But that's certainly his first win, and as you say, keeping that record going. That was a big slide from Ottaviani, who suddenly looks less like a contender for first and more like a contender to be overtaken by Nicholas Hüben. And here he comes.
Yeah, indeed, getting that pressure onto his shoulders. Nicholas Hüben will look to the left-hand side. This is the battle for second position behind this. Jonas Wanner will be our provisional race leader. He will take over the race lead from Sebastian Ray and Martin Peatman once they've come into the pit lane, but the battle for second position is definitely on. And you get the feeling that Ottaviani, pace struggles, they're definitely coming in, and there is an overtaken yet more on the table for Nicholas Hüben to do. He's been fantastic today, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty quiet early on, but smart in the way that he's driven, and it could even be a reward of second place if this battle goes his way. You get the feeling that that mistake there from Ottaviani maybe signalled the best opportunity for Hüben to get through, but he wasn't willing to throw it all the way, trying to get this second position. See if there's going to be another one, because it's not the first mistake we've seen from Ottaviani, that one there through the penultimate corner. We've seen one through the third last corner. We've seen him sort of jumping up, sort of getting close to Wanner and then getting further away again. We've seen those sorts of mistakes before, so Hüben does have the opportunity to be a little bit patient here, but he will be relying on the Italian making more mistakes, and that was another big slide through the third last corner.
Indeed, they are really feeling it now, and Alessandro Ottaviani has that pressure on. A little bit of a slide there through the final corner, a difference in line as Nicholas Hüben was going for a later apex through the 90-degree final turn, and much like what we had in Norris Ring, where everything was calm until the final portion of the race. We're seeing that here. I think partially, though, it's coming down to a bit of tyre wear around this circuit, certainly higher than what we had back in the Norris Ring, and a few drivers struggling with these medium-speed corners to keep the cars effectively connected to the road without sliding off, like what we've seen here a little bit from Alessandro Ottaviani. We saw even a little bit from our race leader, or a potential race leader from Jonas Wanner, after he took over that race lead effectively from Tim Yarshall post pit stops. There's another slide.
It's the longest slide. It's like a drift competition through there. He was all over the place. Now Hüben's going to get to the inside as he just has a little look to the inside line there of that hairpin through turn 7. Not able to make the pass, but Ottaviani is all over the place, and the more that he slides, the worse that the next slide is going to get. It's a snowball effect here that he's experiencing, and Hüben is trying to capitalise, still can't do it for now.
Indeed, and Nicholas Hüben is there. He is knocking the door. There is that potential for a move, but where is it? Obviously, it will become a better position once Peatman and Ray, remaining out on the circuit, by the way, so clearly their tyre struggles aren't too high. As still Jonas Manner is fine. Now up to 2 seconds, and this is dragging in Tim Yarshall, and those behind. Nicholas Halbin will be feeling that, and he'll know that he's really got to make the move pretty soon, because he'll be seeing that train growing and growing in his mirrors. And he knows that once Tim Yarshall gets there, well, he doesn't have quite as many options to try and fight his way through.
Yeah, exactly. It does feel like he has to strike quite soon now, Hubin, potentially at the next mistake, because Ottoviani is making them quite frequently now. And Hubin, I think, will be under pressure from Yarshall at the end of the next one, if you like, because it obviously slows them both down when the Italian up in front makes a little bit of an error. But this is so far not been happening for Hubin, even with the errors that have been coming in. He's been patient though. He's not been rash in a move that he's made, and there's a little slide from him that he just has to correct. So interesting to see where he's going to actually do this now, and if there is going to be another mistake from Ottoviani. Of course, it's not certain, but the way he's been going at the moment, you'd fancy your chances here, Hubin, although a couple of slides on this lap now.
Yeah, it seems to swing, doesn't it? You have one time where Alessandro Ottoviani is the one feeling that pressure and making the mistakes, and then Nicholas Halbin himself will be doing so, as Sebastian Bray finally comes into the pit lane. Martin Peetman doing as he did at the Norris Ring and remaining out on the circuit, as the difference in line into the opening complex there for all to see again. And Jonas Vanna is himself moving one step closer, kind of there, but just one step closer to P1 and to a first victory of 2026, making it 4 different winners from 4 races. Well, who's going to be joining on the podium? You can kind of see some of those cars behind, and maybe they will have the opportunity to work their way through as well, but at the moment they're not getting it just yet. Tim Yarshall was there, he was closing in, but not quite enough just yet.
No, not just for the moment. He's not far away, but he's still got those last few tenths of a second to get there here. Grunewald just in behind, won't be making this easy either, because Yarshall will have one eye on his mirrors here at what's happening behind. Can't be counted out that Tobias Grunewald is not going to make a move before the end of the race as well. And again, in turn, he and everybody else following on down the line all have their worries about defending from the guy behind them, because everybody's got one in this group. That was a little look from Hakkinen there as well, just to unnerve Grunewald a little bit there.
He certainly is, and they're all unnerving each other just a little bit. And whilst Timing Tower's going a little bit crazy, this race is starting to turn itself up to 11 a little bit here, and this fight from Yarshall, he's doing well to keep those behind. No one's got those opportunities yet, but you get the feeling with the tyre wear potentially increasing, maybe those opportunities will be in. We had a few big slides around the circuit, and they're probably not a million miles away from getting more and more and more as they navigate their way into this tight hairpin sequence up towards the chicane. Big slide again coming off the corner from Alessandro Ottoviani as he tries to put the power down, slides the Porsche off, Porsche versus Porsche in the battle for second place.
Yeah, indeed. It's a good fight to watch at the moment. Can Hubin get himself through? At the moment, looking tricky to do this without another error from Ottoviani. He's not been able to just yet when things have been normal, if you like. Well, here comes the final corner again. Hubin not able to get himself through again as the sun begins to set now, by the way, getting into the evening, shadows lengthening, and this race now getting towards its conclusion. Vanna finally the leader as Peterman makes the final stop of the day.
Indeed, now we're back to pretty much all square as everyone has pieced their way in, and now we have a clearer picture as to how the race is going to unfold for the next 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Jonas Wanner's got to hold on to a 1.7 second lead, and the gap's been ebbing and flowing, but it is in favour of the German that sits out front. Jonas Wanner is in control, back on board with Max Benneker and its champion Lucas Müller, who will probably say he's had quite the frustrating day, where he's found himself obviously up in a very solid position, qualifying in third, find himself down in seventh after an error around the second pit stop, and he's not really been able to recover since.
not particularly. Down the pit straight, nothing doing here in this group with only 6 minutes to go, and you wonder whether this is going to happen now in terms of these passes, or are they just going to get more desperate as it goes on, as this race draws towards its conclusion. Vanna comes over the line. He's got no concerns from anybody behind him. About 2 seconds of a gap. Ottaviani certainly has, though, and Hubin's got another good exit coming out of the final turn. In fact, one of the better ones this time. Ottaviani, he's weaving around quite a lot. He's defending and then just pulling back to the racing line pretty consistently, really, blocking Nicholas Hubin at the moment.
Look, they're defending what it's an easy track to defend at, realistically. You know, you've got to drive the racing line, and surely all should be fine. And they're playing their cards right here, even though they're pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Sliding through again, differing lines all over the place as they try and just hold on for what they're worth. It's a difficult track, clearly, for the drivers to keep on the racing line. It seemed so easy 50 minutes ago, and now it's getting more and more difficult as the checkered flag sits just on the horizon for them. Likes of Tim Yarshall, even, who looked so strong earlier, was way off the racing line, and Turka Häkkinen for Tobias Gronewold. There's yet a further opportunity. It won't be for the podium, though, with 5 minutes left to go. That does seem like it's going to be fairly settled between Vanna, Ottaviani and Hauben. As to which way round that's going to go, we'll have to wait and see. The gap got as low as 1 second between third and fourth. Now Tim Yarshall sits behind, and once again here we go for second place. Here comes a look. Nicholas Hauben trying to get to the outside. We'll try and cut to it in just a second. It is going to be Nicholas Hauben straight to the outside of the opening corner. Contact between the pair of them. Alessandro Ottaviani is squeezed out wide and sliding himself out into third position. Ottaviani's going to go. Big kick of oversteer from Nicholas Hauben. Is Ottaviani going to be able to come straight back through? Not on this occasion.
No, and that might well be it now, unless Ottaviani finds some miraculous speed here after being overtaken, because he's looked pretty at sea in the last few moments while he's been in front. I would say this is Hubin's now to keep this second position. I think Ottaviani might well argue the case that Hubin makes contact with him there or whatever, but I think that was just fair side-to-side contact in a racing scenario there, and that had been coming for Ottaviani for quite some time. He'd been blocking almost for quite a while there, Ottaviani. Finally, though, he's been displaced by Nicholas Hubin here, and Ottaviani is back to third. He can focus now on just making sure he can get out of today with a podium, which would surely be a success from this position.
Very much so. Like I say, it's all on the table with, probably 3 laps left to go in this race. The fight for the podium is definitely on. The fight for who's going to be jumping into the interview room and having a little bit of a chat with you and I, Ewan, as well. I'm sure that's not going to... I might have to deter them. Incentive. Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely going to... Oh, wow, fourth place actually sounds all right. It's some solid points for fourth. Don't have to chat to any of you. But no, that's fine. We'll see what we can get. At the moment, Tim Yarshall, I mean, look, his eyes surely are more on his mirrors than on what's ahead of him. Yes, he's closing in on Alessandro Ottaviani. Yes, there is the opportunity ahead of him. But looking at how close Tobias Gronewold is, there isn't really much of an opportunity on the table for him, just because those mirrors are so full.
Yeah, indeed. And that's been the case for a while now in this group, really. We've seen it right from the very beginning. It's no longer a fight for the lead, of course, in the way that it was earlier on, but in this last part of the race, the group for fourth place has been headed by Yarshall, and it's not really been splits other than that. It's even included the likes of Beneke in the last few moments, and Häkkinen as well, who weren't here off the initial start in this group by any means. They've joined a bit later and haven't been able to get too much out of it yet, certainly in case of Beneke's case. Häkkinen was able to get a little bit through the pit stops, but not too much. As in the background, Lerner looks to have finally got past Manuel Vera. He's already got past Kaki Oliveira, and if he has got past Vera as well for ninth position, that's a very good pass for him indeed as well, after a very frustrating day.
Yeah, he's tried really hard, and Moritz Lerner is looking to come through it with another top 10 and some solid points at least after his victory in the Lausstring. Season was looking like it was making a turn for the better, and like you say, consistency has been a struggle. Although as we say that, Manuel Vera has got to the outside, big contact between the pair of them, and Kaki Oliveira is going to come through as well. Kaki Oliveira into 9th, and Moritz Lerner back down to 10th after contact between Manuel Vera and Moritz Lerner at the opening corner. I mean, Vera's car looks in horrible condition with a lot of damage on the front, as does Kike Oliveira. I wonder how much of that, it could have been that lag that we had earlier on, so it might actually be the physical damage they're dealing with. But regardless, there was a hip check, there was some contact, and Vera went out wide at the opening turn.
Yeah, he was never going to take that too easily, was Vera, really. Considering he'd held on from Lerner for so long there, he was never going to give it up so easily. But Kike Oliveira, the undoubted winner out of that battle between Lerner and Vera, he was able to just slip through into ninth position. And that's little solace, really, compared to the positions that he might have had, really, if he'd have qualified a bit better. But in any case, he's got pretty much what he can out of this. There's less than a minute to go. These guys are getting their final opportunities now on the very final lap.
Indeed, we are on the last lap here at Oschersleben. Jonas Wanner leading by 2.5 seconds at the front of the field. Since he's taken over the race lead, he's looked comfortable and consistent, certainly more so than those elsewhere inside the top 10. Max Benneker's going full push to try and get past the number 1 car of Lucas Muller. There isn't time at the opening corner. You start to wonder where else in the circuit is there an opportunity. In deep again from Benneker. He is giving it everything at the moment.
Yeah, certainly is, but it looks like it's going to be a full-on attempt here for everybody really in this group. Nobody looks particularly close enough for anything outrageous at the very end of this race. Looks like they're all going to stay as they are to the end. With the gaps that we can see, Muller not that far in front of Benneker, that's probably the closest one and most likely therefore to change. But it's unlikely to. Groenewald fairly close to Jarschel, who's also fairly close to Ottaviani, and that'll be for a podium as well. But looks like these guys are going to follow one another home.
Indeed, it's been a fantastic drive from Jonas Wanner though at the front of the field, who has just 2 corners to tick off before coming across the line to be a winner again, the DTM Esports Championship. It's Jonas Wanner across the line. Superb performance from Wanner to become the 4th different winner of 2026. Nicholas Huben on to the podium as well, along with Alessandro Ottaviani, who was just able to hang on compared to Tim Jarschel, as Tobias Groenewald will round out the top 5. Jonas Wanner, a fantastic performance there. And much like what we've seen in a couple of rounds before, this 2 pit stop strategy, sometimes it seems like it, 2 pit stop strategy, the 2 pits that everyone has to do, sometimes it seems like it doesn't make that much of a difference. But for Jonas Wanner, the timing of that was the perfect thing, and he did it brilliantly.
Yeah, absolutely did it brilliantly, and as you say, it's at times felt tonight like the stops haven't made very much difference, but Wanner has shown, and some others as well, to be fair to them, have shown that you absolutely can make quite a bit of a difference with the pit stops that you can make, and the 2 indeed that you have to make, and when you can make them here in this race. So yeah, it is. It's a great win for Wanner. It's probably the championship lead as well, and the great run of different winners, 4 different winners now in 4 regular season races, is remarkably continuing on.
Indeed. I mean, it's shown it's being a fantastic season so far here in DTM Esports, and with the live final not that far ahead of us, we're starting to get a picture as to which 20 drivers will be joining us there at the live final. Jonas Wanner, though, is victorious here this evening. Nicholas Huben and Alessandro Ottaviani, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Huben did a brilliant job to jump his way onto the podium. Tim Jarschel will end up across the line in 4th, with Tobias Groenewald and Turka Hakkinen in 6th position. Lucas Muller, Max Benneker, Kike Oliveira and Moritz Lerner. The top 10, I'd say probably the most disappointed driver in all of that. Probably Lucas Muller, after qualifying in 3rd position, dropping down 7th. Alessandro Ottaviani probably won't be particularly pleased to have qualified on pole, but at least he manages to grab himself a podium from the end of the race. Tim Jarschel led most of it, ends up even outside of the podium looking in.
That's the sort of season that Lucas Muller's been having, unfortunately. 7th place this time round on a day where, as you say, could have very much had a podium, but it just felt to me like all of the top 8 really will say, well, maybe he could have had a podium today, potentially with the exceptions of Hakkinen and Benneker, who probably would have been just pleased to get in that front group by the end of it, because for a while it looked like they weren't going to be much a part of that. But yeah, they all managed to get themselves in that front group, and only 3 of them, of course, can be on the podium after all. So there you are. But a great drive from Jonas Wanner to get the win there in that race. through strategy, where so many others were really struggling to make much of a difference in their different pit stops.
Yeah, we'll be grabbing an interview with our top three in a few moments' time, and obviously great to hear some of the thoughts and feelings from some of these drivers who've battled so hard. One of the things that I find with a 60-minute race here compared to the 2 sprint races that we were running last season, Ewan, is that these 60-minute races do kind of take it out of you a little bit more. The sprint racing, obviously, you do a little bit and you think, right, that's 20 minutes done. I'll come back in a moment and then we'll do half an hour. Fair enough. It's all good. Here, as much as only 10 minutes more racing, doing it in a consecutive, time, as much as an hour, these drivers, a lot of them do endurance racing stuff, but that sprint race where you have to be perfect pretty much for the entirety of it is brutal.
But then again, I mean, if you have a bad race one in a day, I mean, I look back to the championship finale the last time we had that 2-race format, and Isaac Price was it was into the hairpin where it all unravelled for him in race number 1. You can be really wounded by what happens in race 1, and then be pretty unmotivated and pretty depressed going into the second race. Obviously, you do get a chance to have another go because there was a second qualifying. It wasn't a reverse grid or anything, but it was a second chance to have another go completely with a new qualifying session there. So yeah, there's pros and cons again, isn't there? I actually prefer this one race, especially with the 2 pit stops that you have to make over the course of those races because of the amount of options that it opens up for you. But it does rather put all your eggs into one basket, really, with just the one race in one evening.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, that's what we're going to be having to deal with for rounds 6 and 7 in our season finale, when we'll be doing 2 races, both of course of an hour to settle our champion. But those will be done on the same day. I'm not fully sure as to what the schedule will be when we go racing for that one, but still, that's going to be a very difficult test. Before that, though, obviously, we'll have the Saxon Ring, which is a fantastically difficult circuit for these drivers to navigate, and one where I'm sure those pit stop sequences will be very, very important. Let's focus on that a little bit here before we grab our interviews. You in Saxon Ring. More, obviously, we see it in DTM, of course, but it's more well-known for its running in MotoGP on 2 wheels rather than on 4. But it's a great racetrack for all kinds of racing.
Yeah, it is an unusual racetrack in so many ways. The sort of twisting corners down the hill towards a sort of awkward hairpin, some more flowing corners in the middle. And few overtake, a bit like here, few half chances in a few places in a GT3. Again, going to make the pit stops very important. It's the theme really of this DTM eSports season, to be honest. Pit stops being very, very important because of the circuits that we've been going to all throughout this season, right from round 1 right to the very end. Maybe the only differences potentially are going to be in those final 2 rounds in the live final, where maybe there's going to be a little bit of a difference in terms of overtakes being a bit more possible. But for the majority of this online season, especially, and the season as a whole, it is all about the pit stops really, and trying to work those the best, as we've seen tonight.
Exactly, and getting the timing right on those has been critical. I've seen it more so, it feels today, than what we've had at previous rounds of the DTM Esports Championship so far in 2026. We've had a few that have been obviously highly important, but this one has felt like there's been, particularly with that second pit stop. The first pit stop, everything was pretty much settled and was very similar to how it was pre-pit stop. The second pit stop, though, really changed things up, and I wonder if that had anything to do with potentially tyre wear or anything like that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of factors on there coming into a different circuit compared to the previous one that makes it, makes it a difference for pit stops or whatever. But that for me, I haven't felt too well. Obviously, having watched most of them and commentating this one, I haven't felt like it's so much of a difference track to track really over the course of the round so far, and it doesn't seem to me like it's going to change too much either heading into that final on-down round either.
Indeed. We're just waiting for Alessandro Ottaviani to join us in the commentary booth, and then we'll be able to interview him, and you can hear voices that aren't just mine and Ewan's, which I'm sure no one is particularly interested in. We want to hear what the drivers had to say after what was a tricky race here at Oschersleben. And of course, it's a bit of a counter to what we had at Norris Ring, where we obviously had DTM itself go to Norrisring a few weeks before we went racing in DTM Esports. This time around we play it the other way around. We've had our race at Oschersleben, and then in just a week's time the DTM Championship will be heading to Oschersleben, and obviously great to see that in person, won't it?
Yeah, it certainly will. So looking forward to that. It was a great end to the season, and always a dramatic end to the DTM Esports seasons in years gone past. Anyway, you can be fairly sure in this series that it's going to be an exciting finale. We certainly had one of those last year as well, with the drama with Isaac Price and Lucas Muller. I think 5 came in with a mathematical chance going into the fight from memory that last year. So it's always a pretty much guaranteed, nailed on, exciting finale in the DTM Esports Championship. Obviously this time being in person as well makes that even more so. But in terms of the points, it's very likely to be very close. And so looking forward to that once again with the final round still to come. We're very much getting towards the end of this season now. We're 4 rounds down, but still 4 different winners from 4 rounds so far.
Indeed. I think we should have Alessandro Ottaviani in the comms booth with us. I don't know if he can hear us or we can see him. We should be able to have Alessandro Ottaviani on our screens in just a moment's time. We're able to catch up with the driver who qualified on pole position and, of course, ended up finishing on the podium. It was a good drive from him regardless, wasn't it, Ewan?
Yeah, it certainly was, and might be disappointed a little bit not to get the win because that was a possibility for a while. Might be disappointed not to have got second place because that position was also being held for quite a while until Nicholas Ubin was able to battle past there. But as you say, it's still a very solid result and a very solid season overall, to be honest, for Ottaviani. We know his credentials on Race Room. We've seen them time and time again, but this is just another chapter in that. It was up there towards the front in the championship coming into tonight, and has likely maintained that sort of high position going into the next weeks as well. So a decent week overall, even if at times it could have been a little bit more.
Well, we have ourselves Alessandro Ottaviani, who's joined us in the commentary booth. Alessandro, for one, have we got a copy on you?
Yeah. Can you see me, guys?
Perfect. We can hear and we can see you. A great evening for you here in DTM Esports. Obviously, you qualified yourself on pole position. Still managed to get yourself podium. It was a very difficult evening of racing out there. Seemed like a lot of drivers were struggling out there at Oschersleben.
It's been good, but not great. The weekend started really good with the pole position, but too many mistakes. Then I had some problems during the start with the pit limiter. I don't know, something would happen, but it is what it is, and too many mistakes, especially during the third stint. So, a bit disappointed, but I still got podium. So, it's a bit of a shame because I probably could have the pace maybe to win or just to stay in P2. But it's still good. I'm happy that Jonas got the win. So at the end it's still a good evening. So I can be happy about the result.
Just tell us about that final stint there, Alessandro, a little bit, because you mentioned the struggle it was a little bit towards the end. What was that really down to? Was it tyres? Was it sort of getting towards the end as a driver of an hour-long race? What was the real causing factor of those couple of errors that crept in the last 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, I just cooked too much, especially the rear tires. Then in the last 8-9 minutes of the race, I started to make few mistakes, especially in the last sector. So especially when I was overtaken by Niklas, it was because I was doing mistakes. I was going off track. My tires got dirty, and my tires were just done, and was not able to manage it. So that's completely on my fault. But that was mainly the tires management. Just make me really, really bad. So it is what it is.
Time management seemed like, you say, quite a critical thing here at Oschersleben. Only one more online round left to go, which is obviously next time out when we go racing at the Sachsenring. And then after that, when we go to the Nürburgring and Hockenheim, I'm sure these are all circuits that you're focused on, maybe a little bit of tyre wear. But, let's fast forward just a little bit to the live final. I know it's obviously a few weeks away still. Are you expecting the same strategy things to play a part there, or are you more focused on racing in person, that kind of being the main de facto thing for the final?
For sure. I I've been in a couple of on-site events, and everything is, I will not say different, but the atmosphere, everything, it's it's cool, but of course it's different. So it's gonna be a big challenge for all of us. Can't wait to be there. Still one race to go, so everything is not sure, but I'll try to play same as I'm doing in these all-line races for sure. To see everyone in person, it's cool, but also it's gonna be really challenging. So we will see some big moments. There will be big moments on the on-site final for sure.
Sandro, thank you so much for joining us, and again, a fantastic drive to the podium. I'm sure we've got a bit more to talk about as the season progresses.
Thank you, guys. Ciao, ciao. Have a nice.
There we go. Alessandro Ottaviani, superb performer there. You in this round, that pole position, really, really impressive, and the podium, great as well.
Yeah, so it's he and Yarshall who've got 2 pole positions each now, 2 and 2. But Ottaviani not able to convert this time round in terms of a victory there. He gave us a little bit of an insight there as well, actually, as to what happened off the start between himself and Tim Yarshall, which was quite interesting to hear, actually, because we thought, actually, that's just a very good reaction from Yarshall. Maybe he's even jumped the start. That's how far ahead he got. Actually, it wasn't down to any of that. It was a problem for the pit limiter for him. And so Ottaviani taking the blame for that one himself, which maybe had more of an effect on that race than we realised, because it could have been a very different world, I suppose, if he was leading right from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, for Tim Yarsh, obviously missing out on the podium despite leading there into the opening quarter, I'm sure it'll be very disappointing. But very interesting to hear there from Alessandro Ottaviani saying about the tyre struggles which a lot of these drivers were dealing with out there, and it was plenty exciting. Or be able to catch up with Jonas Wanner, who seemed like he was a driver that wasn't really struggling with his tyres out there, very strong at the front.
Yeah, let's chat to him now. Jonas, welcome in. Congratulations on the race victory tonight. Just how was that in terms of your result compared to your expectations at the middle part of that race? It seemed very difficult to overtake, even if you using pit strategy, but you were able to use pit strategy perfectly to take the win in the end. Just how unexpected was this win for you, and how pleased are you to take it?
Well, I'm speechless. Like after last weekend at the Norrisring, I thought P3 was already a big achievement for me. To now be sitting here finishing first. I mean, DTM ESPORTS probably one of the biggest esports races there is, esports series there is. I'm delighted. Well, the race itself, it was, as you said, really hard to overtake. I mean, I think everybody saw how difficult it was to even follow closely. I mean, probably everybody knew that Oschersleben isn't the track to fight as good as Norrisring probably. So, of course, the pit strategy was the main thing to focus on. I think, I probably nailed it, to say it at least. Like I said, I'm speechless. I don't really know what to say.
Obviously, jumping into this season and of DTM Esports, a couple of your stable mates being the 2 most recent champions of DTM Esports. How much work goes into a round like this when it comes to the strategy, when it comes to your pace and consistency, along with Tim and Lucas, who have obviously proven themselves in this championship before?
Well, I think, doing the preparation. I mean, as you said, we have the 2 recent champions in our team, so I think they pretty much know how to nail a preparation. I mean, obviously it's really difficult, especially after racing Norrisring last weekend, to have 1 week of prep. I think main focus, as we saw today, is getting the hot laps in. I think the race pace itself comes from having good recent pace already. From strategy side, I mean, we had our plan what to do. I mean, we all knew that the first time the window opens is probably the best moment to come in, because the tires just drop off massively after 3 laps. I mean, we even came in before, but as everybody knew in DTM, it counts as you exit the pit lane. So I mean, the first stop was planned. The second one basically came on.
Wow. That is an abrupt ending to that. We salute you, Jonas. He's gone. That actually wasn't him. That was the call. Unfortunately, we will have to catch up with Jonas another time. That's a show. I was really interested to hear what he had to say there after a very well-deserved victory.
It makes it sound like we kicked him out after he said everybody knows that the pit window opens when everybody leaves, because we obviously didn't know that and got quite a bit early. But we didn't kick him out. The Zoom call ended. So there you go. To be totally honest, but there you are. Anyway, it's great to hear from him. And a great drive from him. Absolutely fantastic drive to get the win here tonight. As he said, speechless at the victory. I was surprised that anybody was going to be able to get past Tim Yarsha, to be honest, after the control he had over this race, but Vanna was able to do it, and a great drive from him.
And he's been going from strength to strength, isn't he? Obviously, with the podium back in the Norris ring, which he said was a surprise. Now a victory here. Obviously, Ewan will be racing in a few weeks' time when we head to the Saxon ring. I mean, the confidence for him is going to be through the roof.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And as we've mentioned time and again, so close to the top of the championship coming into today. Thomas Ribeiro being so far down today means that he's almost certainly going to be top of the tree now. So he is going to have absolutely sky-high confidence. And he's the only one really who's had a consistent season overall, I would say. He did manage to get that podium last time out. The week before that, he was 9th. The week before that, or the round before that, 8th position. He's been in the top 10 every time, and nobody else, I don't think, can boast that now we've been through the first 4 rounds. So he will be absolutely over the moon with this result and with this season so far.
Exactly, and for a lot of these drivers, the season hasn't been exactly what they would have expected coming into it. Tim Yarsha obviously grabbing that victory allows him now kind of turning his season around after a disappointing start. It seems like drivers are really struggling with consistency this season. Tomas Ribeiro, who has been one of the more consistent drivers this season, struggling a little bit with this round, right? And so Jonas Vanna, you're quite right. He will take over the lead of the points going into round 5, the last of our online rounds here. That's just the nature of how this has been chopping and changing so frequently, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just been like this the whole way through. Nobody, again, has really taken a grip on this championship. Maybe you can argue that Jonas Vanna has done that now with this race result, because, as I say, he's had top 10s every time. I don't think anybody else can say that they have had that. Certainly not to the level that Vanna has in the last 2 rounds. Nobody can say that. So maybe he's just started to take a little bit of control. But, his lead's probably not going to be many more than a few points at the end of this, such as the point system and such as the closest of the season so far. So don't expect him to be too far out in front. And one bad round can see you really drop for a few positions. I think we will have seen that with Ribeiro here tonight in terms of dropping a few positions. I think this outside top 10 finish will drop him down a little bit.
Indeed. I wonder who the favourites will be going into the next round. Tim Yarshall, obviously, will be plenty strong enough, I'm sure. He'll be firing his way back into the top reaches, I'm sure. Of course, for Tomas Ribeiro, look for the recovery for our championship leader coming into this round. Struggling a little bit here at Oschersleben. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, that will be on the 1st of August when we'll head to the Saxon Ring, our final online round, before we get ready for the middle of August, where we'll, of course, have our season finale, a doubleheader in person at LAN. From myself, Lewis McGlade, from Ewan O'Leary alongside me in the commentary booth, from obviously everyone here at Racing and our broadcast partners at Traction, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks when we go racing at the Saxon Ring. Bye-bye.